Orestes and Salvian did not sleep very much by discussing with Sabir all that they heard and saw during these 3 days. The next day, all 3 of them got up quite late. They went to the baths together and swam for a long time in the stone pool in the basement of the main palace. They are almost alone in this vast pool as the Huns prefer to bathe in rivers and lakes. A short walk into town and it's time to go to dinner at the palace. The majority of guests are already waiting near the entrance to the banquet hall. We hear phrases in different languages that mix in the hubbub. Soon the door opens and the guests begin to enter the room. At the entrance, each person receives a cup of wine, which he drinks from the health and prosperity of the queen. Then the guests find the tables assigned to them. The table of Keriko and its divan, covered with multicolored carpets and fine fabrics, are placed on a platform. Some ladders lead to this royal box. Prince Elik sits next to his mother. On both sides are small round tables for 3 or 4 persons. The Romans, with Orestes and his wife, were pleased that their table was in the right row, which was more honorable in their opinion. Sabir also wins his place in the left row, on a sign from Keriko. A woman in a white dress, assisted by a girl holding a tray with wine and food, approaches the fireplace at the end of the room and feeds the spirit of the fire with a short prayer. Salvian remembers the recent dinner in the villa of Tatul at Patavium and the similar Roman rite performed by Orestes. Each table is served by a cupbearer and a woman or a girl. The plates and vessels are made of wood, worked very carefully. The spoons are in silver and the cups in gold. The majority of guests use their knives, which are the indispensable attributes of the Hun suit, even for women and girls, such as silver and gold belts. Women wear narrower belts, while for men their belts serve as signs of distinction. Only the Khans, princes and chiefs of the great tribes, have the right to wear belts composed of rectangular plates of gold with reliefs executed in the style of the arts of the steppes. The majority of men wear silver belts. Each table has its place of honor, and the Romans note that this place of honor of the neighboring table is occupied by a lady in white dress who has just recited the prayer to the spirit of fire. The woman of Wanges wears a Greek dress made according to the fashion in force in Constantinople, but has a solid silver necklace with a central round disc where a cross with 4 branches, equal and anchored, is engraved in its center. The banquet begins. Keriko raises a small gold cup and proposes a toast for the health of the most notable guest, who responds by posing in turn a toast for the queen. "I seem to be attending the banquet of Queen Cleopatra," said Orestes with a dreamy air. "Our young queen is not a make-up and perverse doll." Answers brutally Wanges. Conciliatory. The wife of Wanges replies in Greek. Orestes obviously means that our queen is also very beautiful. "I recently read in the library of our town stories about Cleopatra. Is it true that in Rome there are 28 libraries?" "Now less," said Orestes. "Some burned in 410 during the sack of Rome by the Goths. But there are still libraries which possess 10 or even 20,000 books. Unbelievable. We have only one public library that has no more than 5,000 books." "You and Keriko look like Greek goddesses," Salvian notes. "It is interesting that the majority of the Huns do not look like us, but some, by contrast, are different only by their clothes." "Keriko and my wife Ita are from the Saka tribe," said Wanges. "The Huns consider the Sakas as an older people and their masters in crafts. We, the Greeks, call them the Scythians, which means the nomads." Salvian remarks, the Alans, who are now numerous in Gaul, consider themselves also Scythians. The wife of Wanges explains, the Sakas of Asia speak a Hun dialect. The atmosphere relaxes gradually. Wanges no longer says brutality. The banquet with 3 services is with the Romans continues for a long time. The dinner is organized as a theatrical performance that brings it closer to the Roman banquet, Cena. Keriko pronounces a few more toasts in honor of the distinguished guests. About Orestes, she said briefly, I greet Ambassador Orestes and am pleased that more and more we are receiving Roman embassies. This contributes to our mutual understanding. I propose this toast to the health of the ambassador. Orestes rises and bows to Queen and said, in my childhood, Attila visited us in our villa on the edge of the Drave. Today, after several years, I am happy that God gives me the opportunity to visit his country and its astonishing capital, to know the beautiful and wise Queen Keriko, to speak with the young Prince Elik about the history and traditions of its people. I wear this toast for understanding between the rulers of the Hunland and the Roman empires. During the breaks, between the Queen's toasts, people listen to songs of different people, dancers and musicians show their art. Then 2 dwarfs make the audience laugh with their grotesque garments, their ridiculous gestures and their words in amusing mixture of Hun, Goth and Latin. The Romans leave the palace after midnight. As Wanges lives not far from their residence, he invites the Romans to his home in the commissario, the Roman snack after cena, with fruit and fine wines. I'm beginning to feel at home here, said Orestes. There are certainly unusual things that do not exist among us, for example, these octagonal wooden houses. But many things are similar. Even the story. Salvian asks, by the way, why are the houses here octagonal? Wanges reflects, it's a tradition. To increase the surface of the buildings. To tell the truth, I never asked myself this question. The Huns love round things, the tables, the shields of the warriors, even this city. Salvian asks an important question for him. Is it true that the Huns do not like and do not know how to lie? I was thinking of this question, says Wanges. It was always important for them to know what is happening even at the other end of the steppes. That is why a news which is transmitted by a large number of people at a great distance is still fairly accurate. The grammar Hun astonishes me by its logical spirit because its rules are very well respected, which is not the case in our languages with the innumerable exceptions to the rules. What shocks me in the Latin language is to classify objects that are not alive into men and women objects. Ita smiles. One might think that the ancestors of the Romans believed that objects could marry and have children. Interesting hypothesis. Laughs Wanges. I do not speak much Latin because I often confuse the genres, explains Ita to the Romans. Pensive, Salvian asks, you explain, then, the honesty of the Huns and the logical spirit of their grammar by the fact that they make up a people of cavalry occupying a very large territory. Wanges answers affirmatively. I believe also that this is one of the principal reasons for the extreme rarity of the practice of slavery in the steppes, for a slave can always flee from his master. Indeed, the Huns have no real slaves. The term kul, which is sometimes translated as slave, is actually a vassal. They are not of the slaves in the Roman sense. This also explains the equality of women and men, Ita adds. Orestes asks, do you think the Huns and the Christians believe in the same God? Wanges looks at his wife and says, the Huns think that a single and all-powerful God has given the hand several fingers, so he has given man several ways to him. Ita says, our shamans and priests of all religions have different capacities, depending on the case, but always real, to communicate with God. That is why we value all religions. And we are interested in the doctrines of others. We call God Tangra, and our poets sometimes refer to heaven as that word. But nobody can imagine it. Attempts to represent God, draw or sculpt him, contradict his celestial grandeur. Everyone is silent. Each one reflects in his own way on these eternal questions. Salvian feels that his eyes begin to close, rub them before opening them again. Orestes rises. Thank you very much for this very pleasant evening, good night. Tomorrow, rest well. The day after tomorrow, it will be the feast of the sun which begins at dawn. It will be necessary to get up very early in order to reach the place of celebration and that everyone finds his place.